To screw or be screwed? That is the question when it comes to hanging drywall. There are some situations where people will nail drywall into place and other situations where you will want to screw it. So we're going to dive into installing drywall, finding the right hardware, and the right technique for making sure that your drywall screws are properly installed and ready to be taped and speckled. I recently installed about 100 linear feet of drywall down here in my basement in my studio. We encountered a flood back in September and we had significant damage to the drywall. So if you want to learn more about this whole basement renovation, how we've saved money, how we dealt with the sump pump issues, and all of the cleanup, make sure that you click the playlist above for the basement renovation. But this is part 2 of my drywall video. The last one was about choosing the right drywall and why, and some tips on how to get it home. So you can click that video as well. But here we are talking about drywall screws. So make sure you subscribe. I don't want you to miss any of the upcoming episodes that are all about basement renovations and basically room renovations you can use at your house too. But before we talk about screwing your drywall into place, I do want to address nailing drywall. Usually when builders construct homes, they are using a nail gun and they are attaching drywall very, very quickly using a nailer. Most of us don't have access to that. And as a DIYer, it's not something you're necessarily going to want to invest in. So you can use drywall screws. Most people agree that drywall screws, although it might take a little longer to install, are the better route because a screw will go through the drywall and attach to the stud more firmly than a nail, and then you don't end up with nail pops. So like I tell every homeowner, screw it. And it's important that you have the right screw for your drywall work. Now, drywall screws, you're going to find them in the store, generally in a box. It's unfortunate that if you have a small repair and you only need a few drywall screws, that you do have to buy a whole box. They don't come in the little baggies in the hardware store. So look for a box, and the nice thing is that they often come with a bit. So inside is a little baggie that will have the appropriate sized bit. These are Phillips bits. You may have the right size in your bit set, but it's important that it fits well or you won't get a good grip and they will strip. Now, in this case, this is a 1 5/8 inch screw, and this is generally a good option for most drywall applications. So this is a good one. Either the 1 5/8 or 2 inch is what I would grab. Now, you're going to notice that there are different kinds of drywall screws. There are some that are coarse thread, some that are fine thread, and again, they come in different lengths. So you might be wondering, which one of these would you use for your project? In general, you're going to use a coarse threaded screw for wood studs with a fine thread for your metal studs. In some cases, you'll find a fine threaded screw with a self-drilling tip for those metal studs. But you can choose which size you need based on the depth of your drywall, and they all generally have the same Phillips head tip. Now, of course, you can use a handheld screwdriver to put in your drywall screw, but that takes too long. I would never do that. I will be using a drill with a drill bit attachment with a Phillips head bit. So this gives you a lot more control. You can slow down the speed. You can work much faster because you are not working your wrist trying to get all of these drywall screws into place. Now, if you have 1 or 2 nail pops, it's different. But if you're doing a larger project, rely on your drill. When installing a drywall screw, you want to make sure that you are applying it so it's hitting the middle of the stud. Remember, studs are 1.5 inches wide on the short side, so that you've got that much space to drive it. You don't want to have your drywall screw too close to the edge of the stud because you can split it and you're not going to catch it well. So keep that in mind, that you want to hit that middle area. Now, it's important that you remember that the studs on a wall are 16 inches apart for most building construction, so that it's 16 inches from the center of one stud to the center of the next, and that's how it should be installed. And if you're doing a whole wall like I did, you would be spacing them 16 apart from the stud to stud line, and also vertically as you're working your way up and down the stud. When installing a drywall screw, I always find it helpful to press it down a little bit and get it started. And now we are going to drive this quickly and straight. That's important. You want it straight down if you need to for extra oomph, press down on the back of your drill. When you get near the surface, you want to slow down. You want the drywall screw to just dimple the drywall paper. You do not want to drive it all the way through, because once you've destroyed that paper layer, then you're only into the gypsum board and you're not getting good contact. So just dimpled right there, because then you can cover it with spackle. I'm going to show you the wrong way to install a drywall screw next. You do not want your screws to go in crooked like this. Now, one, it started to strip because it's crooked. Now, two, I have half of it in properly and half of it is sticking up. You will not get it to spackle well over in that area. Now, lastly, this is a bad way to do it, in that we've gone straight through the drywall. We have punctured through the paper, and now we don't have any grip. So it's important that you do not go too far, that you go straight and not crooked, and that you do it so it is just dimpled under the very edge of the paper so that you can cover it fully with your joint compound. So if you found this video tutorial helpful, please give us a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe. The next video coming will be how to mud and tape your fresh drywall. And I want to make sure that you also subscribe to our newsletter. In there, I do a deeper dive into different materials, different products, and different techniques to get things done. And you can also learn about the DIY private coaching that I do for homeowners. So make sure you sign up for that newsletter, because I don't want you to screw up your next drywall project.